Hey, welcome everyone. I have a very special guest joining us today, one of the members in the Fit Body program, and actually a former high school classmate of mine as well, Andrew Sim. And we're going to be sharing his journey with you of how he went from being fat and flabby to now being firm and fit and really developing an incredible physique as we're ultimately progressing towards his further goal of getting down to 147. But Andrew, thank you so much, dude, for taking a bit of time out of your day. I know you are a busy man, and you also just traveled quite a bit this past week. So
Yeah.
I would imagine some of that is setting in as well. But I want to thank you for taking some time out and joining us here today.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on.
For sure, man. And why don't we start off this way? Why don't you just share with everyone a little bit more about who you are and give everyone context. That way they have a little bit of a background.
Okay, sure, yeah. So, yeah, my name's Andrew. Ursula and I went to high school together many, many years ago. And sorry, after high school, I was pretty much professionally dancing, ballroom dancing to be specific. And that was pretty much my life. That was what I was doing until about maybe like 2.5 years ago, like right before the pandemic. And then I started getting into the ballroom dance shoe business. And from there, I took a break from dance and was just really all in on the business. And obviously, my body was like, hey, yo, what's going on here? Like, you went from full activity to nothing. And so, obviously, I gained a ton of weight. I was not feeling good, especially after like 15 years of just activity. And so my friend, one of my best friends, Lewis, he also went to high school with us and he's joined the program first. And he told me, like, I was like, damn, like it's been like 3 months and he's like looking good. Like, I remember before he started, I was like, damn, boy, he's fat. And then he started the program. And then I was like, oh, wow, okay, this actually sounds like pretty decent when he explained it a little bit to me, and I was like, okay, I could see like how this could be beneficial. I jumped in, and yeah, now we're here.
Awesome, man. And could you share like where you were numbers wise in regards to before we started and where you are now?
Yeah, so I started at 181.5, the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And now I'm about like 169. Um, but it's the thing is like I've been 160s before, but 160s fat. Like just fat. And compared to now, like I feel like I'm in 160s, but I don't look 160s. See, so for me, like I feel a million times better just because of that. Um, I feel healthier. I feel like I have a lot of energy, even though I haven't started dance yet. So I can already tell, like once I do start dance, it's going to get even better.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before we jumped on. How Anthony recently, who also was a former classmate of ours, I attended his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition this past
Mhm.
Sunday. Similar goal and similar also journey where he started at 187, got down to 147.
Yeah,
So that was it was a cool parallel. I think I even reached out to you about that. I'm like, bro, that's gonna be you one day, and then it's gonna be us.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. But could you also share like why did you feel like you needed to have a coach in your corner as opposed to just doing this on your own?
Right. So for me, it was my number one thing was accountability because doing it on my own was it's just that I can always find an excuse not to do it. Like when my because I'm helping to run a business and everything. Like it's very time consuming. So any free time, I'm like, all right, I want to actually I just want to chill. Like I don't want to do anything. Always traveling or always right behind the screen. I don't want to be doing anything after that. So I really needed someone to just give me some structure. Just be like, all right, these days you got to do this. Here's what you got to eat. This is how much you got to eat. And just follow it. Like that for me is just something I really needed. I had that when I with my old coach, like from my old dance coach. Like he pretty much did that for me. Um, so once I didn't have that anymore, I was like, oh shit, like what do I do now? Because that's pretty much what happened during the pandemic. I had no accountability. I was just kind of all in on the business end, and I was like, all right, screw it. Like I've done this. I cared about my physique for 10 plus years. Like now I'm just gonna like not care. And that's what happened. I got to the heaviest I've ever been. And I was like, damn, I gotta change because the thing is that I was still always on the like to the like this is like just some insider info. I never bought like new clothes at my heaviest because I always in my head was like, I'm gonna go back to my normal weight, you know. So my clothes barely fit. There was like a half of my wardrobe that was just chilling that I couldn't wear, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta lose some weight so I can start wearing some nice clothes again. Um, like that, and that for me, I was like, all right, but I didn't know where to start, and I also didn't know how to carry the momentum forward because a lot of the times I would start, and then life happens, and then I'll be like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna go do my thing again, and I neglect, and then I was like, okay, like this is a problem. I need someone to just be like, here's what you gotta do, and then like have check-ins, just make sure to keep me accountable because if progress isn't being made, someone is there to be like, yo, progress isn't being made, here's what we gotta do.
Yeah. And what were some of those things that you started and stopped before joining the program?
Before the program, it was pretty much I just went back to what I used to do for dance without the cardio of dance, which is the problem. And it was like it was just a kind of it was a very like ballpark diet is what I call it. It's not anything specific, and it's just low calorie, like not tracking macros. It's just, you know, only calorie counting and all this stuff. And first off, the diet itself isn't super healthy just to begin with. If I were to think of it now, like thinking of macros and everything, like I was severely low on macros and everything. So mental health is bad, no energy. Since the protein is also low, I'm like, I'm you know, I'm turning into a twig at that point with no energy and mental health is bad. So it's like everything is just bad.
Yeah, it's like,
And so that, of course, like if it's gonna be like that, and I'm always gonna feel like shit, then of course I'm gonna be like, screw it. I'm just gonna, you know, eat something good. You know,
100%.
yeah. So that was a huge issue. And like I said, the big issue also is that since I wasn't dancing and I'm not dancing yet, dance just by itself is so much cardio and aerobics that like of course I'm gonna lose weight. But without it, that's where it was hard because I was like, okay, I don't know how to navigate when I'm not dancing. Um, so that was for me. I needed some guidance on that. I needed some education because I obviously didn't know, and I didn't know where to start. And there's just so much information out there and on the internet that I'm like, I don't know what to look at. I don't know what to trust. I don't know what's actually going to be good for my body because everybody's body is different and everybody needs something different. And so for me, I was like, that's where I saw the value, you know, getting something that is actually good for me. It might not be good for, you know, my friend over here or my friend over there, but it's good for me.
I love that. Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it. Everyone's body is so different. And because of that, and I feel like even everyone's lifestyle is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, like you travel at least twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
So with even that lifestyle, how to navigate eating out, could you actually talk a bit? I'm almost curious to hear about the ballroom dancer diet that you were doing prior to joining the program. Do you have a range maybe of how many calories you were consuming on a daily basis and what your maybe macros look like?
I would say probably around 1100,
Wow.
maybe a little bit less.
And could you just for some comparison and context, could you share with everyone what you've been eating with the program now, like with what we've been doing together?
Oh yeah, we were hitting around 2000 calories. Now we're around 1800 to 2000. And the thing about it is that like yeah, when I'm home, I meal prep. It's not too hard. Tons of freaking protein, tons of food. Sometimes it takes me a while to eat it because there's so much food. Um, but the big thing is that when I'm out, so like when I'm at a an event or when I'm out with my friends, what I like about this is the macro approach is that I can look at something and be like, yeah, I could afford to eat that, versus just looking at the calorie count and being like, I don't know, like I don't know, it's a lot of calories. Yeah, it might be a lot of calories, but it might be a crap ton of protein that I need for the day. So it's like I really like that approach. It's been a lot less restrictive when I'm out. As like I just literally I pull up the app. I'm like, all right, like if I were to eat this, where would that put me? And like, how much more do I need for the day? How much time do I have left? This and that. A lot easier, a lot less restrictive, and I'm still able to eat good food. So it's like I really enjoy that. Especially last week, I noticed that a lot when I was at the event. I was just eating normal food. Like I was eating Mexican food. I had a steak. Like I was eating normal food. And I got back and I was like, I was still around the same weight. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I remember even when we met up,
Yeah.
obviously we were working with Coach Lewis. Unfortunately, Coach Lewis and we decided to part ways. But I remember when we went out for like our Fit Body team night out, we having like sushi and
Yeah.
we were like, so I couldn't agree more. Like I think what's funny is when we're out with the members, anytime we're out, it's like I feel like there's a stigma of like, oh, like it's like almost like if you're with your like financial advisor and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you shouldn't be buying your Starbucks coffee and like you should be saving that $5. It's almost like a stigma with trainers, like, oh, you shouldn't be eating that and you should have a
Yeah.
salad. But it's funny how it's like it's almost the opposite. It's like, dude, have the Starbucks. Like,
Yeah, no, it's totally the opposite. And that's what I
yeah,
like about it because
yeah,
that for me was what I needed the most was how do I navigate day to day without restricting myself like I was before? Because
right.
for me, like I love food. I love the experience and I hate having to restrict myself when I'm in those spaces. And so like when I was on my dance diet, like oh my God, it was like yogurt, salads, fruits, minimal protein like chicken, and just water. Like it was bad. It was bad. That's why. So you can see how it was like around like 1,100 calories.
Yeah.
It was the next level. And as soon as after that, I was like, oh, I never want to do that again. So for me, like being able to, I can make smart decisions based off of what I'm offered, and I can make a judgment call. Like if I like from the like throughout the day, it was like pretty much I stuck to everything, and then at the end, I'm like, you know what? I want some ribs. Let me see how I can fit that in. If I can fit it in, then it works, and I can see the progress still. So it's like I really like that aspect of it, alongside the structure of what exactly I should be doing day to day, what workout should I be doing, when should I be doing them, being able to move them around if I need to. So it's like I like that flexibility a lot.
Yeah. And with that, speaking of flexibility, I feel like one thing that was really important to you was you don't want to do this forever.
Hmm.
And candidly, I love you, Andrew, but I don't want you here forever either, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I want to empower you with the tools, right? So,
Hmm.
with that being said, one thing that when we initially spoke, you said was really important to you is self autonomy, to be
Hmm.
able to self regulate after the program. Could you speak a little bit about that in regards to like the accountability, having that external accountability with Coach Lewis? Obviously, did a phenomenal
Yeah.
job with you, and we're continuing to work together. Could you speak a little bit about the autonomy, also balanced with the accountability?
Hmm. Right. So in terms of autonomy, I would say that it really just comes down to being equipped with the tools to make decisions. The hardest thing in
I love that. Wow. That is
yeah,
phenomenal. That's a great way to put it.
because the hardest thing in any like fitness journey or just in general, this could be anything. This could be business related, this could be fitness related, whatever. Decision making is the hardest thing to do, and nobody wants to do it. See, that's the thing that sets apart leaders from workers is being able to make decisions. So the thing about, you know, self-autonomy is it comes from, like I said, the tools, and it comes from being educated enough to make decisions. Because if we're equipped to make the decisions, we will. And the you know the what's it called, the um accountability is what keeps us on track. It keeps someone pushing us forward to make decisions. So that's the thing. You still, in the beginning, it's hard. You know, it's still new. Even if we feel like we know more now, we still kind of need someone on the back to just kind of push us and keep the momentum going. So then, you know, at the end, you know, you give one final push and we're able to keep going. So that's the thing. So you need both. You need to have the accountability as well as the self autonomy. Self autonomy is just what comes from the tools and the education, and the accountability is, you know, the motivation, the push to keep going, checking progress, adjustments. You know, that's the tweaking, and you need both, in my opinion, to have something sustainable, something that can we can keep, um, you know, propagating, keep going on our own in our day to day, even in situational stuff, like if we're at an event or we're at a party, or, you know, like navigating life in general while maintaining these principles.
Dude, I love that so much. Man, that's such a cool concept. And I think you nailed it with like, it reminds me of Ray Dalio's principles, right?
Mhm.
Like you're being equipped with tools to make decisions.
Yep.
Dude, I feel like everyone needs to write this down where it's like the separator between leaders and workers is leaders make decisions.
Yes.
I love that so much. That's phenomenal. I feel like everyone needs to write that down.
Yeah, that comes straight from just my business. It's decisions are being made every day, and this is just some insider info. Like, um, for example, we're going through a real tough time right now because our products are made in Russia, and of course, with the war, it's a real tough time trying to get stuff in. And so right now, we're actually navigating a space that we have no idea what's going on, how to do this. So we have to constantly make decisions while being extremely uncomfortable. You know, we have no idea where we're going. We have some direction and we're making decisions based off of that, but we're not comfortable at all. A lot of decisions we're making is kind of like there's a chance it fails, you know? And but the key is that we always have someone in our corner that keeps pushing us. You know, and for me it's, you know, my partner, we push each other forward to make sure that we're making decisions and we're sticking with it. Decisions that are good for us, decisions that we feel are right. And because it's very easy, especially when we're uncomfortable, to give up, to go back to something that's comfortable, our comfort zone, and being like, all right, no, but we've done this in the past. And, you know, it worked then and we know it works. Let's just go back to that.
I love
That
that.
might be okay for right now, but in the future,
Yeah.
that's that's not going to work, you know. Versus if we stay out of our comfort zone, push for something new, try to, you know, walk the path less taken and keep going, we're going to eventually come to a clearing, you know, where there's peace, you know, everything's in equilibrium, everything feels good now, but we're in a way better place than we were. And that's very similar to the fitness journey. It's just keep on pushing through this uncomfortable phase, and then once we're through the uncomfortable phase, we're in a way better place than we were, and from there it's a much better platform to move forward from.
Wow. You know, I feel like that's something that not only has made you successful in this program, I feel like that's also a mindset that served you and has also made you guys successful in business as well. Would you say that is?
Oh yeah, easily. If we didn't have this mindset, because it's very easy not to, especially when things are good. When things are good, you get complacent, and it's very easy to just kind of stick to what we're doing. And that's we did do that for a bit, but then once, you know, the war started, we were like, man, we got to do something like now, because if we don't do it, we're gonna die. And so we had to make decisions, big ones. We completely rebranded. We're opening a new company. We're doing a lot of different things. That's because the thing is that this company has been going for about 10 years. The industry knows this company. So for us to rebrand and for us to start carrying other products as well, doing other stuff, that is a huge shift from what we were doing and what trajectory we were originally having. And so for me, be going through that now, I see the parallels a lot with what I've been going through with my fitness. It's it was definitely like uncomfortable, and it was definitely something new. But now that I'm in it, I'm like, all right, now that I feel pretty comfortable with this, now it's time to make some adjustments because I don't want to get too comfortable, you know? And I like that I can reach out. I can be like, all right, like this is where I'm at. Like now what? Because I don't, it's, I've seen progress and I'm like, all right, let's keep it going. The only way to keep it going is if we start, making some adjustments, putting myself out of my comfort zone again, and then keep pushing through. Because I already made a ton of progress, but now to make the next phase of progress, it's going to take more work. And so it's like, I like that aspect a lot, that I'm able to adjust and I'm able to apply that right away versus, kind of flailing around, kind of reach for something in the dark and not knowing what I'm grabbing.
I love that. That's such a beautiful metaphor because I feel like when I've been lost in my life and I didn't have mentors that I have now, it was almost like I was searching for the answer with a flashlight in a dark room. I
Yeah.
was like freaking looking for it. The second I hired a mentor, it's like I flicked the lights on. I'm like, oh, there it is. And it's just like it made such a clear path forward. So I really love that analogy.
Yeah.
Dude, that's phenomenal that you guys have been in business for 10 plus years. I think there's a quote that, or a stat rather, a statistic that you might be much more familiar with than I am, which is that I feel like 80% of businesses fail within the first year or something like that. And then like 96 or something crazy fail within 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they're not, or like not profitable. So the fact that you guys have been here for so long, would you say that pushing into or leaning into your discomfort has been one of the reasons behind your longevity in business and being the top 4% or 1% or whatever the case?
Easily. It's so one of our core values in our company is called Kaizen. Kaizen is never-ending improvement, and this was from I think Ford Motors or something. It was some car company, and this is one of our core values because if we're not improving, we're going to die. There is always going to be new competition. There's always going to be changes in the market. There's always, customer preferences are going to change. Things out of our control are going to happen. The way that we handle it is by constantly pushing the envelope, constantly getting uncomfortable, and that's what does that force us to do? That forces us to come up with new ideas. That forces us to make decisions. That forces us to reach out. That forces us to move our ass when we're comfortable. That forces us in situations where we were fine, things were good, we were making record months. In those months, while we have that capital, make decisions. Versus, oh shit, we're doing good. Let's sit back and let's keep doing what we're doing. It's okay to have a little bit of let's keep doing what we're doing. You can't always be uncomfortable because that's no way to live. But at the same time, if we're not swimming forward and we're just kind of just like spinning in place and just kind of treading water, well, eventually we're going to get tired and eventually we're going to drown. So that for me is such a major thing when it comes to anything in life. And with our business, that's what kept us alive, is just constantly trying to improve, constantly coming up with new ideas, constantly trying to improve in every aspect of our business, one step at a time. But as long as we're making micro steps of improvement, we're making improvement. So it doesn't have to be major things every single time, because that's also not healthy. It's a lot of small improvements that build up eventually reaching some milestones that causes pivotal change in the whatever in the business, or in this case in our fitness, or whatever it is that you want to do in your life.
Dude, I love that. So what I think I'm hearing is essentially it's about balance, where you do want to have and go for those home runs and grand slams, but
Yep.
you also want to prioritize base hits and
Mhm.
just getting on base and moving the needle forward in that
Yep.
way as well,
Exactly.
as opposed to never stepping up to the plate or just not swinging at all.
Yes, and that's very easy to do. It's the thing is like, you know, there's no shame in it. There's nothing like, oh, like if you want to sit in the dugout the whole time, you can do that. You can still live a comfortable life doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's up to you and whatever you want to do in your life. If you want to make decisions, if you want to be a batter, and you have to understand what your role in that is too. You could be just a guy that just wants to get on base, but you always get on base. So that's the thing. Like, you don't always have to be a closer. You don't always have to hit home runs, and that is fine. You can still be successful in whatever it is you do, but it's as long as you understand what exactly your role is. You understand what you want, where your passions are, what you're good at, what you want to do in your life. Then it becomes a hell of a lot easier, and it also becomes something that you don't necessarily dread doing. Why is that important? Because of Kaizen, like I said. If we hate what we're doing because we're not good at it, or there's a lot of pressure, or whatever the case may be, now trying to improve becomes a lot harder and a lot more stressful, a lot more painful, but not good pain. You know, there's pain is good because it's growing pains. That means we're probably doing something right. But if you feel that it's having some sort of a huge negative impact on your life, and the balance that you want in your life, whatever it may be, is impeded, then you shouldn't do it. There's a plethora of other things in this world that you could be doing. And I say that about everything, in terms of fitness, in terms of if you want to go into a business, whatever you want to do, you have to take faculty of what exactly you want. And it's very important that you do that so that you can find a good balance for yourself.
Dude, I feel like I'm learning so much from this. I'm gonna go back and watch this a couple of times. I don't want to miss anything. I'm gonna start writing notes. Dude, that is amazing on so many different levels. And I connect with that. And again, I feel like it brings the conversation back to balance, and maybe even a little bit of self-awareness in regards to not only what you have an inclination for and what you're good at, but where you can maybe add value. The reason I connect with that so much, give me 1 second. I'm just going to put my laptop on charge. The reason I connect with that so much, Andrew, is because I've once heard, I believe his name is Naval Ravikant. He has this book called the Ravikant's Almanac, or Naval Ravikant's Almanac. Yep. It's not even, he didn't even write it. It's just a bunch of tweets that somebody else composed in an audiobook. And he said something brilliant. He said, the reason why you need to love what you're doing is because if you don't, in the same industry, there is somebody that does love what they're doing, and they're going to beat you every time.
Yep.
Because growth and progress for them is going to come naturally. And I feel like that almost brings our conversation back to the diet aspect. And obviously it's not a diet, it's the nutrition plan, because think about the ballroom dancer diet you were doing. It was miserable and you would feel tired. And how do you feel now with the nutrition plan you're on? Could you maybe talk a bit about what the emotions are that you're feeling now doing this?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel a lot healthier in many aspects of my life, in terms of I feel like I have energy. Mental health is pretty good, because obviously it ebbs and flows. There's obviously some days that are better than others, but for the most part, it's pretty good. The high protein has been really nice, just because I went into this telling you I don't want to go back to looking the way I did. When had no muscle mass, I was a stick. I had like 7% body fat, maybe less. Like it was bad. And I told you I didn't want to go back to that. I wanted to look healthy, normal, not just for dancing, but just general life. And I wanted a balance. And I feel like I am achieving that. Like I said in the beginning, like I'm 169 or something like that. I don't look 169. And I think that's for me is such a nice validator of, this is the right direction. My body is reacting positively. So it is getting what it needs to sustain, plus and some more. And it's changing in a way that I feel like is going in the right direction. So if once I reach my goal, if it keeps going in this direction, I should reach, the physique that I want and the fitness level that I want. So for me, this nutritional plan has been, like I said, a lot more balanced. At least with the being able to if I just looking at everything in terms of macros, plus calories, I'm like, okay, like this makes more sense now. When I'm out and about looking at foods, I'm like, all right, cool. I can definitely fit this in. Whilst before, when I was on my other diet and I had no clue what macros were, I would have been like, it's just guesswork. I look at it, I'm like, that doesn't look like like something I could eat. And it's like, but why? Oh, because it has so many calories. But that's not a good answer. It's like, why can't you fit it in? Because I met my macros for the day. Like there's a reason behind it, and there's a science versus just being like, oh, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like something I can eat. It looks unhealthy.
I love that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so that for me is a huge thing. Like it's just being able to do that, and the balance being a little bit easier to achieve is it's way less restrictive, which I like a lot. I hate restrictions, and for me, not being super restricted is a nice change of pace.
I think I made a video about this one time where I was talking about restriction and the psychology. I love like if you know me, like I really love the psychology behind things and like the reasoning and the science behind things. Mm-hmm. If you think of like restriction, right? What you restrict becomes almost like special and like scarce. Yeah. And like human beings were designed to compete for like special and scarce resources. So like all of a sudden you start like wanting something just because you can't have it.
Yes. Exactly.
Like it doesn't make any sense if you think about it that way.
Yeah, and because I'm able to pretty much eat what I want as long as it's in line with my macros and calories, like I have it. Like I can eat it. So like I'm never like sitting here like, damn, I wish I could have this. I can have it. I just have to be able to fit it in. Right. So it's like it's more of like it's like more problem solving then at that point than it is like, oh shit, I can't have this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, why can't I have it? Oh, because it doesn't fit my macros for today. But maybe it can for tomorrow. I just have to structure my day in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like I like that a lot. I can plan a lot easier when I'm doing that. And I can actually plan ahead, like, oh, I might have a heavy dinner. So I'm just gonna have, a little bit less for lunch, the same stuff, just little smaller portions, snack, and then I have my dinner. And then it's like, all right, it works.
Yeah. Am I almost hearing you right where it's sometimes not even about the portions? Because as you said, sometimes things can have a lot of calories, but it can also have a lot of the macro requirements of the proteins and the fats and the carbs. Mm-hmm. Am I almost hearing you right that sometimes it's not even about the portions as much as it is about just having what you want and making sure it fits within the plan?
100%. It has, as long as it fits, like, as long as it fits my macros for the day, I'm still staying with within my calories. Like, I can make most things work. Like, as long as it makes sense. But for most things, I can make them work. And like, I can have like a 10-ounce, 12-ounce steak, that might have some fat, but it has like 40 something grams of protein. I'm like, bro, that's great. Like, I can just have less of my, my whey protein and like less of this. I don't have to have a bar or anything. That was my protein.
Right.
Like I've made days work just on food.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like that a lot. And the thing is, I can fill the gap whenever I do have a gap with my, my protein shake, or like with some, other forms of food sources, like from some nutrition sources. So I'm like, all right, cool. I can, first priority is get good food in my day, and then after that, I can fill the gaps wherever I need to, if I'm missing anything. So it's been a lot easier doing it like that, where I'm like, I don't even have to be super specific sometimes. I'm just like, I kind of want this, and then I'll fit it in somehow.
I love that. Well, so you heard it here, folks. You can live your life without giving up all the flavor.
100% you don't. Like, there's like some common sense stuff, but aside from that, it's like you can eat most things, as long as it's reasonable and you can fit it into your day. Like, there's not many things that you can't eat if you really think about it. So it's like you can enjoy life still. If you like food like me, like you can still enjoy life. You don't have to like completely cut everything out and be like a miserable like rabbit eating lettuce all the time.
It almost sounds like that works against the goal that you had in the first place.
Oh, yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing. It's like what I like about this is that I don't have to go back to that. And it's because it's a completely different mindset. It's a less restrictive mindset of, oh no, I can't have this. I can only have this stuff. It's a lot of don'ts when it comes to dieting, and which I didn't like. So the way I look at this, it's less of a diet and more of just like a guideline of how to gauge what you can eat. And it's for me, it's actually a lot of, you can do this, like a lot of do's versus don'ts. If you want to eat a ton of protein in one sitting, you can. If you can do that if you wanted to. So it's like, it really just depends on what you want, and just planning accordingly and making sure that you adjust accordingly. So that's the big thing. I would say it's less of a diet and more of making sure that you're making the adjustments necessary to account for what you're eating. If you want to have a giant meal, you can have it as long as you adjust the rest of your day to meet that.
Yeah, like you were saying, like have less of the whey protein if you're gonna have a 12-ounce steak, as an example.
Yeah, and it's just so what happens is, like, the biggest difference between not dieting at all, not having a plan at all, and this is the adjustments. Without dieting, without nutrition, there are no adjustments. You're just eating what you want without understanding what you're putting in your body. And when that happens, then you can overeat. You go way over in like fat, for instance, or you go way over in your calories. And then it's like, okay, now of course you're gonna gain weight. That's just how your body works. But as soon as you apply some sort of, understanding of what you need to be putting in your body day to day, making the adjustments necessary to meet your goals, and just general planning. And it doesn't even have to be anything super precise. It just has to be, a few minutes of just like, all right, how am I planning my week? How am I planning my day? That's plenty. Like, you don't have to spend, hours just like, toiling over what I need to do for the week. It's not necessary.
Yeah. I was onboarding a new member in our program yesterday, and he was showing me the meal plan he had received from these bodybuilders he was working with. And his meal plan, I kid you not, it was literally the virtually identical to the meal plan that I had when I was doing my competition. It was down to the gram. It was like 80 grams of banana, 20 grams of dark chocolate. As he was saying it, I was getting stressed out. I'm like, bro, this isn't even my meal plan. I'm getting stressed just hearing you talk about this.
Yeah.
And I love how you said that it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to toil like with hours and hours. It's just like, you just got to have some sort of a structure and some sort of a plan in place. and you don't have to get so granular where you become like a calorie accountant, if you will.
Yeah, like unless this is like your thing, like yeah, unless you're going to like bodybuilding competitions and stuff, and you're really getting, you're getting grilled on this, like you're getting graded on this, like no, that's like the average person, like you're not gonna carry a food scale with you everywhere you go. I'm not gonna break out the food scale at dinner with like a big party and start weighing my food. Bro, that looks so stupid. Like, why? Just enjoy.
Hang on, guys. Hang on.
Hang on. I
just
gotta
gotta
weigh
take
this.
all the food off my plate in a separate plate. All right, let's balance this out to 0. All right, here we go.
Yeah, like that is what like I think people think you need to do for dieting, but you don't. Like, yeah, when you're home, you can do that.
Right.
Like, I do that for my meal preps and stuff, but that's when I'm home. But if I'm out and about, I'm not gonna be like, oh shit, I gotta be super specific about how many ounces this is. I'm like, this looks like about 3 ounces. Like come on, like it's like it's way easier and way less stressful doing it like that, and just kind of being, as long as you're close enough and being specific. So then you're like, all right, this is about pretty close to what I consumed. That's enough. Like there's like a buffer there. There's a buffer built in. You don't have to be right on the money every single time. And I feel like that's a big plus to this style of dieting. That's why I'm saying it's way less restrictive because of that. And people can do what they want as long as it makes sense and it's reasonable.
Nah. Yeah, I feel like this flexible approach is something that a lot of the guys have been appreciating. And dude, like, I want to ask you because, there are times where people decide not to move forward with the program. What was your biggest reservation that almost stopped you from experiencing all of these benefits that you are now?
I would say the biggest thing was cost. But that's just in general for everything. But I think I told you this before. It was really just came down to what value I would be receiving, and also that I saw the results with Lewis. So it's like, I think understanding that a program can work, and it's not a guarantee, of course, for anybody. That's just how fitness works. But I feel like as long as I was getting tools that I can just apply forever and I can just keep replicating on my own, then it's worth it in that sense. However much I paid over the course of my life, that's pennies a day. So it's like, that's the way I looked at it. And, if it was something that like, I feel like, okay, like I'm paying this, but I need to stay on the program forever because, there's kind of always like, I feel like I'm not getting enough information, or I feel like I'm not getting the full picture. And so I always need someone there to fill in the gaps. Then of course that's never going to be worth it to me. So for me, like I said, the biggest thing was that the value I was going to receive in terms of sustaining this moving forward.
I love that. Dude, I couldn't agree more. I feel like you want to be equipped with the tools. Like, you want to learn how to fish, and as opposed to be like, here's a fish. Like, you don't learn anything. And that's why a lot of these diets, bro, these fads like intermittent fasting, keto, low carb, you name it. It's a hack. It's like, cut this, cut that. But there's no education behind why does intermittent fasting sometimes work, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, no, it's a tool to restrict calories. It's not the actual window of time. So you don't actually learn anything. But it seems like you've gotten an education in our initial 90 days, and you're going to continue having that education as a foundation to build on, even as you continue, with our final phase of our 90 days and beyond that.
Yeah, like for example, like that was like a huge thing, like the low carb thing you mentioned. Like that was what I was doing with my diet. My previous diet was low carb, no sugar, just protein. My God, that was horrible.
It might have been horrible for your bowel movements too.
Oh, it was bad, and there was just a lot of bad, and there was a lot. Like I said, there was a lot of no's. For this one, like I said, just like my carb percentage and my protein percentage are pretty damn close to each other. Like, just think about that. It's like, it's not like, oh God, like 60% protein and like 15% carbs or something. No, they're pretty close to each other. So it's like I have a pretty substantial amounts of carbs a day. Like I have a window I have enough for that. And so like if I want to have some bread, I can have some bread. If I want to, have something that has some carbs in it, okay, whatever, as long as it meets my macros.
Yeah, 100%.
Like that's it's like that's so nice. Like, oh shit, I want like if I want a sandwich, I'm like I can actually have a sandwich if I wanted to. Like if I really want to fit that in, I can have a sandwich. Like it can work. Versus nah, zero bread, like zero this, zero that. And it's like, okay, sure, but I have zero energy now.
No carbs, no protein, just like water, air, chicken, and broccoli,
Yep,
and no
that was
lunch.
it. Yes, that's it. And it's like I'm like I could just I'm just picturing it. I'm like doing squats and I just pass out like because of no energy.
That actually happens to people, bro.
Yeah.
I remember a long time ago when I was going to the gym and there was this kid, he was on the floor. I'm like, dude, what the F are you doing on the ground? Like, he's like, dude, I didn't have any carbs. I'm doing this keto thing and I feel like I'm going to die.
Because you are dying.
Literally, it's like his soul left his body. He was just like on the ground sweating and like, just like looking out like the 1,000 mile stare.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's totally that. But
So, Andrew, my final question to you, bro, is you mentioned that, obviously there's no guarantees in life and fitness, whatever the case may be, and that this program worked for you. It might not work for somebody else. Could you maybe, how would you, if you had to go back in time, your current version, I don't know if you ever saw like that movie Freebird, where it's like the
I know
chicken.
what we're talking about. Yeah.
Anyways, if you had to go back in time, this current version to speak to a 3 month prior version of yourself and describe who is this program for, what would you say?
I would say that this program is for anybody that wants to make lasting change proactively. So the key thing about this is proactiveness. Like the reason that this wouldn't work for somebody is because they constantly need somebody to just be like, yo, you doing your thing like every day versus, all right, here's what you gotta do. You good? All right, cool. I'll see you next week. It's if you're not going to be proactive, if you're not going to self start, and if you're not willing to stick to it when nobody's watching, that's not going to work then, of course. Nothing's going to work for that, for that. No diet out there, no program is going to work if you're not proactive with it and you're not keeping it going when nobody's watching because you're not building any good habits. In the beginning, like meal prep, I've never meal prep before. I never had a food scale. I never had, to measure out anything. And I was like, oh, it sounds like a pain in the ass. Like I'm gonna have to go to grocery shopping and buy everything and then just make it all and then weigh everything and do everything like that and keep track of everything. Yeah, in the beginning it was new. It's a lot of new territory that I have to get used to. It's extra things I have to do in my day. But now it's just a matter of like a few minutes of just doing my thing and I'm done. Like I know what I need to buy, I know what I need to do, I know what meals I have. Calorie counting is super freaking easy now. So it's like, but that only happened because of 3 months of just doing it. So that's exactly what I would tell myself is that this will work as long as you are proactive and you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you don't do it, you're not going to see any results no matter what. No matter how much you exercise, no matter how much cardio you put in your day, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing in the program, you're not going to see any results no matter what.
It reminds me of that quote, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink, right? My job is to make the horse as thirsty as possible. But like you said, I'm not Jesus Christ. If you're lying there dead, I can't resurrect you and like throw you in the water. Like
exactly. Like that's the thing. Like everything is, and this is for every program, I think. it's a matter of you're learning guidelines, to navigate your life. You're given tools to make decisions. You're being equipped to do the thing, and but the thing is that nobody's gonna make you swing the sword. You have to do that yourself. Someone can help you lift it, but you have to make the decision that you're going to use it. And I think that that's the one of the biggest takeaways is if you're willing to use the equipment and the tools that you're given, and of course in the beginning it's going to be a lot of new stuff, so it's going to feel like it's going to be time consuming in the beginning because you're just doing it for the first time. You don't want to mess up. You want to make sure you're doing everything the right way, and so it's going to be a little more time consuming. It's going to be a little stressful, but after a little bit you get used to it. It becomes your daily, it becomes a normal thing. And then it's like, oh shit, after a while you're like, I can name my grocery list. Like I know exactly what I need. I go to Trader Joe's, I buy my stuff. It takes me like 10 minutes. I'm done. I meal prep. It takes me like another, like however long, less than an hour. It's like whatever. And then I'm good. So
You spend an hour a week to meal prep your entire week's worth of food. Is that what you're saying?
just about, I do everything at once, and then it's super easy. I have my recipes that I use, and that's about it. It's just like I said, it's just a matter of making sure that everything is reasonable. It's easy for you and what you need in your life, and it fits your day. And for me, it works. When I'm on the go, it works when I'm at the office because I have a microwave there, so it works. Yeah, I don't eat my food cold. I'm sorry, but
You're not extreme like I could be.
especially rice. I'm not eating like cold rice, but yeah, it's like I said, it's hard in the beginning just because it's new, but after a while it becomes normal.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, dude, Andrew, I actually just realized what time it is. Dude, I enjoyed our conversation so much, bro. I have an appointment now with a member in our program. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and sharing that. I'm definitely going to go watch that at least once, if not twice, because I feel like there's so many takeaways just beyond nutrition. But this member we're meeting with, he's cool. He knows that I had so I'm going to go ahead and get to him now. But dude, thank you again. And thank you for everyone that's watching. If you found this valuable, please like the video, share the video. That way others can also find some value from it as well. So thank you so much. And we will see you in our next video. Again, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.